Headlines. The Kremlin says North Korean leader Kim Jong-un is attending a war anniversary event in Moscow in May. This will mark Kim's first trip overseas since he took office in 2011. The Islamic State militant group gives Japan 24 hours to reply to demands to free a Japanese hostage. Tokyo says it's doing all it can to bring its citizen home, which may include a prisoner swap. And Apple's quarterly results surprised Wall Street as strong sales of big-screen iPhones during the holiday quarter. In a sharp rise in China, sales helped the company post the largest profit in corporate history. Welcome to the program. You're watching Primetime News. Live from Seoul, I am Kang Tae-ri.
And I'm Sean Lim. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. We begin with our neighbor to the north. According to the Kremlin, there's a good chance North Korean leader Kim Jong-un will embark on a trip to Russia this spring to attend a World War II-related anniversary event. Although it's not yet clear whether he will actually appear, experts say Pyongyang wants to gain as much attention as possible over this announcement. Our Kwon So-ah tells us why.
North Korean leader Kim Jong-un may be headed to Moscow this May. Citing the Russian presidential office, Seoul-based Yonhap News reported Wednesday that Kim is among the 20 heads of state that have confirmed their plans to attend Russia celebrations, marking the 70th anniversary of victory over Nazi Germany in World War II. A week ago, the North Korean leader responded positively to Russian President Vladimir Putin's invitation to the event. If Kim makes the visit, it will be his first trip abroad since coming into power in 2011, and the first time a North Korean leader has not chosen China as his first overseas destination since the Korean War. But experts say Kim may actually want to head to Beijing first for North Korea-China talks.
North Korea wants to provoke China to respond to the announcement of Kim Jong-un's visit to Russia in order to talk to China before the North Korea-Russia talks. To push China, Pyongyang will be highlighting Kim Jong-un's visit numerous times up until the anniversary event.
Analysts also say Pyongyang is trying to provoke South Korea and the U.S. too for similar reasons, saying that if Kim's visit to Russia comes ahead of InterKorean and U.S.-North Korea talks, a new round of frosty relations will likely form. Kremlin has not yet finalized its guest list, which still leaves Kim's attendance pending, as well as South Korean President Park Geun-hye's attendance, as she too has been invited. Kwon So-ah, Arirang News.
Top nuclear envoys from the United States and Japan expressed their support for South Korea's efforts to improve inter-Korean relations. Following a trilateral meeting in Tokyo Wednesday, South Korea's chief nuclear envoy Hwang Jun-guk said they agreed on the need for a strong signal from North Korea about its sincerity toward denuclearization in order to resume the stalled six-party nuclear talks. This multilateral framework involving the two Koreas, the U.S., China, and Japan, as well as Russia, has been stalled since late 2008. Inter-Korean trade, meanwhile, hit a new high after the Kaesong industrial complex restarted more than a year ago, but that does not necessarily mean the future is secure, as several factors that could hinder growth remain. Our Song Ji-sun reports.
Could this be a bright sign for the two Koreas' future relations? The Korea International Trade Association said on Wednesday inter-Korean trade volume topped $2.3 billion in 2014, more than double the figure from the year before. The cumulative trade volume over the past 26 years is $22 billion. Inter-Korean trade dropped to an 8-year low in 2013, the year Pyongyang shut down the jointly run Kaesong industrial complex, citing heightened tensions on the peninsula. It resumed operations there 5 months later. The products from the complex account for almost all inter-Korean trade. The recent jump in trade volume could get an extra boost from a recently concluded free trade pact between Seoul and Beijing, as the two sides agreed to acknowledge Kaesong products as being South Korean in origin. Manufacturers who invest in the Kaesong complex will gain a competitive edge as their labor costs will be lower than those in China. But obstacles to the stable growth of inter-Korean trade remain, with bilateral tensions a major concern. North Korea added a new clause in September last year that allows it to detain South Korean businessmen if they do not comply with a contract or fail to make agreed payments. Pyongyang held South Korean businessmen when it shut down the complex in April 2013, saying they had outstanding bills. Another challenge will be expanding the capacity of the factories within the complex. Seoul banned facilities investment in the joint complex after the sinking of Cheonan warship in 2010. 송지선, Arirang News.
Calling the uncertainty over global oil prices sizable, Bank of Korea Governor Lee Ju-yeol announced he's making contingency plans. During a meeting with economic experts on Wednesday, Lee said that the central bank is devising scenarios in case prices continue to remain low or rebound. The governor also said its revised growth outlook from earlier this month factors in a potential rise in oil prices in the second half of this year. Apple's latest quarterly results are in, and the numbers wowed Wall Street. The U.S. tech giant sold 74.5 million iPhones thanks to three factors: big screens, holiday shopping, and China. Our Kim Jong-un has more on Apple's solid performance.
Apple saw its revenue and profit soar during the holiday quarter thanks to record sales of its plus-size iPhones. Apple sold 74.5 million iPhones during its first fiscal quarter of 2015 that ended December 27, 2014. Sales during the period drove the company's total revenue to $74.6 billion, up 30% from a year earlier. The company's net profit went up to its highest level of $18 billion, reporting earnings of $3.06 a share. Released in September of last year, the iPhone 6 and 6 Plus models are the biggest iPhones yet, equipped with a 4.7-inch and 5.5-inch screen. That compares to the 4-inch screen on its previous iPhone 5 models. The jump in quarterly sales was also helped by sales of the iPhone in China. Market tracker Canalys says Apple dominated the Chinese smartphone market during the October to December period last year. Apple recorded sales of around $16 billion in mainland China, Taiwan, and Hong Kong during its fiscal 2015 first quarter. Apple is predicting its second quarter will be just as amazing as its first, with revenue of between $52 to $55 billion. This while other U.S. companies such as Microsoft have lowered their forecast due to the strength of the dollar. The U.S. smartphone maker adds that it's releasing its next product, the Apple Watch, in April. Kim Jong-un, Arirang News.
And staying with earnings reports, SK Hynix posted record high earnings in 2014 for a second straight year. Its net income was up 46% to $3.7 billion, and its operating profit went up by over 50%. The chip maker cited its cost-saving efforts and its enhanced profitability in its products portfolio for the record performance. And another Korean electronics giant, LG, saw its net profit more than double in 2014 from a year before. Its net income reached $462 million, up 125% from a year earlier. Operating profit jumped over 46% on the back of a rise in strong sales of its televisions and flagship smartphones. This filing came a day earlier due to a law that requires listed firms to file right after a board review when their earnings move by 15% or more. A full report is due out tomorrow.
Your gateway to the day's biggest stories in Korea and around the world. Breaking news, the hottest interviews, and a whole lot more. Join Arirang Sean Lim and Kang Che-ri from the heart of Seoul.
Begins now.
Primetime News, weeknights, live at 10 on Arirang TV.
Marking the monthly Culture Day, President Park Geun-hye watched the latest Korea blockbuster Ode to My Father, or 국제시장 in Korean. Beforehand, she met with the director, actors, and culture officials to highlight how quality content such as this movie has brought different generations together and strengthened national pride. President Park then said the film and television industries are a major part of our creative economy drive of merging different sectors to spur growth. Ode to My Father is a story about a Korean man who lives through major events in modern history in Korea, including the Korean War in the 50s and the government dispatching of nurses and miners to Germany in the 60s. It's one of the most popular and well-known productions here in Korea, featuring drum beats and kitchen utensils. Nanta recently made history for being the most watched Korean production of all time. Our Connie Lee tells us what this means for Korea's performing arts arena.
There's a lot of drumming, beating, knife wielding, and acting. This is just a brief behind-the-scenes look at Korea's very own production of Nanta. The rhythmic show just made history, hitting the 10 million viewer mark at home and abroad at the end of last year. That makes this not only the longest-running show in Korea, now in its 18th year, but also the most-watched Korean production of all time.
For a local theatrical production to hit 10 million viewers, it's unheard of. But Nanta did it. This gives hope to other locally made productions that they too could succeed.
To mark this milestone, a PMC production, the firm behind the show, celebrated this week and honored the original cast members, pictured on the trademark Nanta poster. You might recognize some of them, like actor Lee Seung-ryong, who's had a recent string of hit movies. The nonverbal show about a group of chefs cooking for a wedding banquet came to life in 1997 by longtime actor turned producer and director Song Seung-hwan.
I was inspired by childhood memories of hearing my mother cook in the kitchen. I wanted to create a show that incorporated the traditional Korean rhythms of samulnori and thought the kitchen had a number of items that could create those beats.
After 2 years, the show, also known as Cookin' in the West, hit the global stage, becoming the first Korean production to enter the Edinburgh Fringe Festival in 1999, and then in 2003, becoming Korea's debut on Broadway. Since then, Nanta has toured the globe and has been shown more than 31,000 times in 289 cities and 51 different countries. Critics rave about the show's comedic features, its family-friendly nature, and the fun Korean beats that can get any crowd going.
When I first created the show, I didn't think it would last this long. Today, I see even greater opportunities for Korean-made productions to succeed even more abroad.
Officials now have their eyes set squarely on China, as the Nanta Theater is set to be built in Guangzhou by this June. Connie Lee, Arirang News.
World leaders gathered with survivors of the Auschwitz camp in Poland to mark 70 years since its liberation. Hundreds of survivors traveled all the way to the infamous concentration camp to mourn, remember, and remind the world of the atrocities committed by Nazi soldiers. Our Kim Hyun-bin takes us to the scene.
Nazi Germany's largest and most notorious concentration camp, Auschwitz, was where some 1.1 million people, mostly Jews, were killed between 1940 and 1945. Over 300 aging survivors and a host of world leaders visited Auschwitz on Tuesday to reflect upon the slaughter that took place there. Over 70 years have passed, but the last survivor said the world should never forget the horrors that took place in Auschwitz and the Nazis' other death camps.
Some of the people still saying that it never happened. I'm here to tell the world it happened, and the world have to learn from it and to live in peace.
The elderly, women, and young children were killed in gas chambers and were burnt into ashes in incinerators, proof of the Nazis' atrocities.
They were killing people like nothing. It didn't mean anything. The smell was so bad here from burning people.
The event could mark one of the last major anniversaries attended by a large showing of survivors, given that the youngest are now in their 70s. Kim Jong-un, InterKorean News.
Jordan has announced that it's willing to engage in a prisoner swap with the Islamic State militant group in order to resolve the ongoing hostage crisis.
For more, we turn to Paul Yee at the News Center. Paul, this jihadist group threatened yesterday to kill a Japanese national and a Jordanian pilot in less than 24 hours. Time has almost run out for these two men. What's the latest update?
Well, a statement from the Jordanian government on this Wednesday said it was ready to release a convicted suicide bomber on the condition that its pilot be released unharmed. However, no mention was made of the Japanese journalist Kenji Goto, who is also being held hostage. Early in the capital, Amman, the senior Japanese envoy in charge of negotiations for the release of Goto said Tokyo was collecting all necessary information on the matter and that they would never give up on saving his life.
We will never give up until our Japanese hostage, Mr. Goto, safely coming back to our nation. And we pray for him, and we never give up. Thank you.
So this is an incredibly difficult situation, to say the least, for the Japanese government as well as, of course, the families. And
yeah, and today we saw the last-minute appeal from the mother of the surviving Japanese hostage. But let's go back to this latest video from the Islamic State. What new details emerged from this footage?
Well, the 2-minute video, which was posted on YouTube on Tuesday, reiterated demands for release of Sajida al-Rishawi, an Iraqi woman sentenced to death in Jordan for her involvement in a 2005 terror attack. The video's narrator said that any more delays to release her will mean the death of that Jordanian pilot who we mentioned earlier. In a previous video uploaded on Saturday, Islamic State militants purportedly executed a fellow Japanese hostage, Haruna Yukawa, who was seized in Syria last August. And in further violence prompted by the Islamic State, militants in Libya stormed a hotel in the capital city, killing at least 10 people. It's been confirmed that an American and 4 Europeans were among the casualties. Intelligence agencies are reportedly saying the 2 suicide bombers had targeted the hotel because it housed foreign diplomats. Our Kim Min-ji reports.
A pair of gunmen stormed a luxury hotel in Tripoli Tuesday local time, killing at least 10 people, including 5 foreigners, before blowing themselves up. The attack began with a car bombing at the 5-star Corinthi Hotel, which is popular among government officials and visiting delegations. Security personnel evacuated guests, including the country's prime minister. The deaths of a French and an American national have been confirmed by their governments. The AFP said earlier that a Korean was among the dead. However, Seoul's foreign ministry said that no Korean casualties have been reported so far, citing Libyan officials, adding that it will report any new developments. A group calling itself Islamic State in Tripoli province said in a Twitter message it is responsible for the attack, saying it was revenge for an al-Qaeda terrorist suspect who died in the U.S. earlier this month. The Libyan prime minister condemned the attack and vowed that those responsible would be brought to justice. Kim Min-ji, Arirang News.
And shifting now to the United States, a massive blizzard has swept across the northwestern part of the country, leaving millions of people stranded in the snow. Massachusetts and Connecticut were the regions hardest hit by icy winds and record snowfall, as much as a meter high. Authorities there issued a statewide travel ban as whiteout conditions forced many roads to be closed. New York, however, was spared the brunt of the extreme weather as warnings of a historic storm turned out to be much more moderate. Amid rising public criticism, the city's mayor, Bill de Blasio, said he'd rather be safe than sorry.
Would you rather be ahead of the action or behind? Would you rather be prepared or unprepared? Would you rather be safe or unsafe? My job as the leader is to make decisions, and I will always err on the side of safety and caution.
Officials had earlier ordered all non-emergency vehicles off the streets, while the subway was completely shut down for the first time in the city's history. The National Weather Service lifted its blizzard warning for the New York City area on Tuesday. However, thousands of flights have been canceled or are still delayed. And finally, the internet giant Yahoo has announced plans to spin off its stake in Alibaba. The company's CEO, Marissa Mayer, made the announcement when Yahoo released its latest earnings on Tuesday. She described the move as a way to maximize the profits of its blockbuster investment into the Chinese e-commerce firm, which went public on the New York Stock Exchange last year. By spinning off its 15% stake in Alibaba, Yahoo's shareholders stand to save about $16 billion in taxes. Investors welcomed the announcement, sending shares of Yahoo soaring by up to 8% in after-hours trading. This as Yahoo posted mixed results for its latest quarterly earnings. Overall profits slightly declined from a year earlier, but revenue from its mobile business jumped 23%, a performance that Meyer says shows stability in the core business. And that wraps up our look at international stories for now. I'll see you back here tomorrow night.
Hello everyone, I'm Stephen Che with the Sports Brief. The world swimming body FINA is scheduled to hear Park Tae-won's doping case next month. And while Park faces a litany of penalties, he'll have a chance to defend himself. An ongoing state probe determined that Park was unaware of being injected with the banned substance, Nebido, and the doctor who administered the shot is facing possible negligence charges. That allows the swimmer to line up his defense behind Article 10 of the World Anti-Doping Code, which says that an athlete may avoid sanctions if, quote, he or she can bear no fault or negligence. But with the code also stating that an athlete is liable for personnel choices, Park will be at the mercy of FINA's interpretation of the case. And moving on, let's go to the doubleheader in the KBL, starting with the tip-off in Wonju. Now, the Dongbu Promi hosted the Goyang Orions, and despite an Orion lead at the half, the Promi turned it around in the third quarter. Park Byung-woo broke out with 5 three-pointers as Dongbu earned a win. And over in Anyang, the visiting KCC Aegis took down KGC as Tyler Wilkerson exploded for 13 points in the third quarter. With that, the Aegis recovered from a 3-game skid. Meanwhile, the V-League was back in action following the All-Star break with the LIG Graders going up against the Hyundai Capital Skywalkers. And with both teams seeking a win to start the 5th round, the Skywalkers forced the battle to the deciding set. There, they took advantage of the listless Graders to earn the comeback victory. And over to the Australian Open of tennis, the semifinals are now set with some marquee matchups in the next round. For the men, world number 1 Novak Djokovic takes on defending champion Stan Wawrinka, while Tomas Berdych and Andy Murray square off for a spot in the finals. For the ladies, top-ranked Serena Williams faces breakout teenager Madison Keys, while an all-Russian meeting is set for Ekaterina Makarova and Maria Sharapova. The women will serve up the action starting Thursday afternoon. And that's all I have for now. Your weather's up next. Good night.
Hello and welcome. I'm Kim Bo-kyung with your weather outlook. So today was a typical winter day, but clouds hovered over the east coast with showers falling on the coasts of both the Gyeongsang-do provinces. As for tomorrow, morning lows should jump 3 to 5 degrees higher compared to today, but a cold wave watch has been issued for Gangwon-do province. Plus, cold air is set to move in, so conditions may feel colder than the actual numbers in some places. Other than that, rain clouds will move move in down south, which could lead to snow or rainfall. Taking a closer look, 1 to 5 centimeters of snowfall is expected for Jeollado and Gyeongsang-namdo provinces, while up to 7 centimeters should hit the mountains of Jeju. As for the rain, up to 10 millimeters is forecast for Jeollanamdo and Gyeongsang-namdo provinces, as well as Jeju. Looking ahead, numbers should stay in the seasonal average range, but they will take a dip on a Saturday morning. On to Thursday's readings. Seoul and Gwangju hit 4, while Busan reaches 7. Meanwhile, rainy Jeju should hit a high of 8. Dokdo hits 4, Mount Kumgang dips to -6. That'll do it for now, but I'll be back with more updates after midnight. See you then.
Thanks, Bo-kyung, and that's primetime news for this Wednesday. Thanks for watching. I'm Kang Cheri.
And I'm Sean Lim. Have a great evening. We'll see you soon.